Kings and Queens, today we're diving into a game played by my all-time favorite chess player.
Международного гроссмейстера, заслуженного мастера спорта СССР Анатолия Карпова.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever played a game of chess and lost it without exactly knowing where you went wrong? Because this is exactly what Karpov did to Timon in this game. So now let's see how Karpov makes a super grandmaster like Timon look like you and me. So Karpov decides to open up this game with the move e4, and now we get d6. A very modern but risky approach. You see, instead of occupying the center with his pawns, Timon opts to attack this white center with a move like knight f6 in the future, attacking that center from a distance, rather than actually occupying it by pawn with a move like e5. So he plays d6, we get d4, knight f6, attacks that pawn, knight c3, and g6. So here Timon wants to get out his bishop, and in the future maybe a move like a6 and b5 to attack these central pawns by the bishops lining up against it. He wants to attack the pawns and then provoke the white player, in this case Anatoly Karpov. Now here, instead of opting for a move like bishop e3 or bishop g5, we get the move g3, a very interesting continuation by Karpov. By playing g3, he's intending to fianchetto that light squared bishop, which means to put it on this long diagonal with the pawn in front of it. And by doing this, putting that bishop on g2, he not only guards that e4 pawn, but also makes sure that his king is a little more safe, right? Because then the bishop on g2 is guarding that king. So yeah, a very slow and methodical approach rather than the usual bishop e3, queen d2, f3, long castle. Bishop g7. Timon develops his bishop. Bishop g2, castles. Yeah, and now instead of playing a move like knight f3, he plays this move knight ge2. Now, why does Karpov put that knight on e2 rather than putting it on f3, which is a way more sort of natural square? Yeah, we're always taught to put that knight on f3. Why on the e2? Now, he puts it on e2 because he wants to be able to play f4, and also because he put the bishop on g2. You see, if he puts that knight on f3, now this bishop is losing scope because of this knight, so he doesn't want to sort of restrict his own pieces. So he puts that knight on e2. And now, yeah, here we get the move e5. Now I do want to mention, why not c6? I was just talking about how black wants to attack the center from a distance in the piece defense. Why doesn't he do this? Well, because white has taken up such a sort of solid construction of pieces, right? Knight on e2, bishop guards this, knight guards this. The center is very well guarded. So now, instead of playing c6 and b5, bishop b7, c5, stuff like this to attack the center, we get this move e5 by Timon. Yeah, he immediately lashes out in the center because he was lacking space. Now we get the move short castle. And here, a very strange move is played by Timon. Yeah, he was trying to be very provocative this game. Yeah, 1d6. Playing it like this. He puts that knight on a6. Now, why does he do this? He wants to get that knight to c5. And now, obviously, you will notice that this pawn is guarding that square. So, in reality, what he wants to do, make sure he can take this pawn in the future. Then he wants to put that knight on c5, attacking that e4 pawn, and then still he gets to attack the center from a distance with his pieces, right? So now, what does Karpov do? Rook e1. Karpov simply asks Timon, what is your next move? You see, if Timon were to go for his natural plan, right, which we just discussed, ed4, knight takes, and knight c5. This would be the natural approach. But in this position, it is very obvious that white is better because, one, the center is very well guarded, right? The bishop is here, knight is here, the rook is guarding. And two, yeah, so since black doesn't have any pawns in the center, he has less space. And also, this bishop on c8 is quite poor. And additionally, white has attacking chances on that king side, which is quite unexpected, but he can go for a move like bishop f4 now, putting that queen on d2 and trading that dark squared bishop. Additionally, he can just bring his rook and play e5. So really, white is the only one with a sort of clear plan in this position, which is why Timon doesn't go for this. So naturally, he goes for that move, c6. A standard Pirch plan, which we just discussed also, he wants to play b5 and queen c7. So again, Karpov, knowing that he has more space, doesn't really have any urgency in his plans. He simply plays the move h3, asking again to the black player, what are you gonna do? Yeah, he creates that loft for the king, takes that g4 square from that knight, from that bishop. Now it's really unclear where that bishop on c8 is going. Regardless, we do get the move rook e8. Yeah, so he's attacking that center. And we get the move bishop g5. Now, this move may be strange, maybe inexplicable at first sight. You see, in this position, he puts that bishop on g5, and rightfully so, Timon says, okay, I'm gonna attack it. Your turn, what are you gonna do? If you were to take, now simply Karpov has given up his dark squared bishop for nothing. Why would he do this? But ladies and gentlemen, Karpov was so grounded in his thinking, so brilliant. Retreats that bishop back. You see, he provoked this move h6 to win a tempo, because now after the move queen c7, yeah, played in the game, we get the move queen d2 and it all becomes clear. This pawn is attacked. So naturally, Timon goes king h7. But now you can see that this move king h7 has been provoked. He has wasted a tempo. And additionally, this f7 pawn is feeling a bit soft. So yeah, this construction of pieces is poor. And in the meantime, while all this h6, king h7 has happened, you know, queen c7, all of these moves aren't really helping black coordinate this bishop, this knight, these pieces. Like this knight, they're all bad. White has gotten a queen on d2 and a bishop on e3. Additionally, he can play rook d1 in the near future and just get a menacing position. So yeah, rook d1 played. Again, Karpov got more space here, and Timon is slowly running out of time. So, okay, Timon again, he does not know what to do. Because if he releases the tension at any point, it is just very obvious that white is better. So he sort of feels the need to postpone this capturing in the center. Plays the move bishop d7. Now, if you do want to pause the video, I suggest you do it here. And instead of the usual tactical blow, it is more of a strategical move concept. Yeah, if you want to discover how Karpov sort of marches forward here. You see, Karpov has now coordinated his pieces very nicely. All his sort of pieces have a purpose, right? While Timon's pieces are scattered. So what does he do? He immediately goes for the dynamic options, puts that pawn on g4. He is starting to make this king a little nervous, and he's just continuing to expand. He's not giving any of these pieces breathing room. So now we get the move rook a d8. Brings out the rook, very natural move, not much to say about it. And now, again, a very nice move by Karpov. Simply knight g3, just consolidates before expanding. He first makes sure his position is secure. So yeah, now at this point, Timon is feeling quite lost, because he's got all these pieces, you know, on the 6th, 7th, and 8th rank. He doesn't know what to do. So he plays the move bishop c8. Now, some of you may go like, why is he undeveloping his bishop? Well, he's doing that to open up this rook on d8. Maybe he's hoping for a future d5. Or when maybe Karpov takes, which he will obviously not do, but then this rook is opened up. Regardless, bishop c8. What does Karpov do? Goes for that expansion, because he just played knight g3. Now all his pieces are on the best squares. Marches forward with that move f4. And now here Timon should have released the tension with a move like ED4. And yeah, so this is sort of the last moment where he could have still gotten something that is, well, playable is a bit of an overstatement, but not totally losing. F4, yeah. And now the move B5. Puts that pawn on B5, hoping to play B4, again attack this pawn indirectly, right? Let's say white plays no move, and you get something like this. Now this pawn isn't guarded anymore by that knight, so now here black gets decent play. Yeah? Maybe moves like bishop b7, moves like c5, moves like knight c5, attacking that center. Now, of course, Karpov doesn't fall asleep, and after b5, plays the move a3. Again, just perfect positional play. Karpov hasn't done anything in this game which is necessarily flashy. Yeah, he's not like Tal. He's not going out there sacrificing queens. Just plays that move a3. And now, again, what is Timon gonna do? The engine is suggesting moves like e takes f4, after which he's just very, very obviously completely worse. Moves like knight d7, which seemingly have no purpose. Regardless, as Timon is a human, he plays that move b4, hoping to just get a glimpse of counterplay. And here Karpov takes it. That's why he played a3, right? To prevent that move b4. Takes. And now I just want to point out something. You see, here something very sort of important has happened, even though you may not notice. You see, when this move b4 has or had occurred, taking this pawn is isolated and this c6 pawn is a little soft. But yeah, it's mostly that a7 pawn, yeah? Now, he has a weakness. Yeah, that is what I wanted to say. That weakness on a7. And so still, Karpov is just improving his position, you know? All these pieces are on the best squares. Whilst Timon's position isn't making any sense. And additionally, his pawn structure is getting crushed. So, here a very nice move again by Karpov. Plays knight c e2. Now, why does he retreat that knight? Simply to attack that pony. You see, here he just wants to, ask where it's going. If he plays knight a6, well then, he's played knight a6. That's a big enough concession, putting that knight on the rim again. So we get the move ed4. Okay, he attacks that bishop, so if you were to take, then this happens, and now you've thrown your entire advantage. So, of course, Karpov recaptures. Still that knight is hanging, still he's not gonna move it back by knight a6, so plays that move a5, guarding that knight. Okay. c3. Karpov attacks that knight again, because he just wants to remove it, get it to a6, you know, this horrible, horrible square. Timon is forced to do it. Knight had no other squares. And now, again, a very nice move by by Karpov, puts his queen on c2, lining up against that king. It's very subtle, but he's sort of hinting at a future knight h5, right? Because then if the pawn were to move, a check like this would happen. So, yeah, and additionally, he's also opening up this rook. Regardless, again, Timon has all his pieces like on the 6th and 7th rank. He has no idea what to do. So he just simply plays that move, bishop d7. Puts that bishop back where it belongs according to him. Yeah, and now a very, very, very interesting thing happens. You see, instead of going for the move suggested by the engine, and also not an insanely difficult move either, g5. Yeah, just continuing that march on the king side. He started it a very long time ago, and now he expands, and yeah, shortly he will pick up this game. Instead of that, Karpov simply plays knight f3. And again, he waits. He's saying, you've got a weak pawn. All of these pieces are bad. I'm gonna keep improving my position before going into something tactical like g5, right? Because it is a tactical move. It does complicate matters. Puts that knight on f3. Rook e7. Trying to put that bishop on e8. maybe trying to double up against that e-pawn. And bishop f2. Again, he just guards the center. And there's just nothing that black can do here. That just all his pieces are bad. There's no making sense of this position for black. So he puts that bishop on e8 as intended with his move rook e7, right? And now something very subtle happens. Queen d3, attacking that knight. Okay, so first of all, if knight c5 happens, which on the surface attacks that queen, attacks that pawn, must be a good move. No, you lose the game immediately. If you drop it back, well then you're an idiot, obviously. Guards that knight. And now, finally, Karpov does the collecting. You see, he's bound this queen to the defense of this knight. And now he goes for that move rook a1. Attacking that pawn on a5. Collecting those weaknesses. You see, because if this queen were to move, then obviously this knight is hanging. So now, after rook a1, you cannot guard this pawn, yeah. Queen b6, obviously this bishop, sniper, is there. So now, the move knight c7. And this is effectively a resignation. I mean, it has been 26 moves. Karpov is playing against Jan Timman, the former world number 2 of the world. Played in not only the candidates, but also a world championship match, if I'm not mistaken. And he just plays natural moves and completely wipes him off the board. Yeah, we get rook a5, taking that pawn. Yeah, super obvious. And now rook dd7. Again, he's just shuffling his pieces. b4. Yeah, removing that pawn from the side of that queen. Knight e6, threatening that pawn on f4. And now he plays the move bishop e3, guarding that pawn. c5. Yeah, I mean, Timman is just desperately just begging for the gods to get him a piece above the 6th rank. I mean, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But yeah, now that Timman is sort of initiating tactical play, Karpov immediately strikes it down with the move f5 because he has the better position, because he's played all the right moves. Attacks that knight, right, by pawn. So, moves that knight. Now, this pawn is attacking this pawn, pushes it. And now it is clear that Karpov is gonna win this game, because what he's effectively done is now he's got this passed pawn, which is extra, so he's up that pawn. Additionally, all of his pieces are placed, yeah, in a more convenient way. They are better coordinated than those black pieces. So now, king h8. Timman again is just waiting for a moment of weakness from Karpov. He's just begging, for a good move. So he plays king h8 and he hopes that Karpov will falter in the conversion of his advantage. We get bishop f2. Again, we've seen bishop f2, bishop e3 before. He opens up the defense to that e4 pawn. Queen c7, attacking that rook. So naturally we get the move rook a4, moving that rook. Queen b8. And now really the final move that seals the deal. Yeah, if you want to pause the video here also, I suggest you do that, yeah. Of course, there are many winning moves, but there's one move that sort of stands out from the other moves, because it really quantifies that spirit of Karpov. c4. And now the bind has been achieved. All of white's weaknesses are gone. He's protecting this pawn, and now the move d5, like let's say you just make some stupid move, is some sort of hope that in the future maybe he can somehow put that pawn on d5. Now obviously here you can play e5, yeah, but it's the sort of dream of counterplay with a move like d5, maybe playing c4 first, shuts it all down, c4. And now we get the move rook a7. Yeah, Timon strikes from the flank. So what does Karpov do? Rule of thumb, when you get strike from the flank, you strike in the center, e5. D takes, knight takes, rook a2, trying to get that rook active. You know, maybe it was just Timon saying, at least I got one piece onto that second rank before resigning the game. You see, after the move bishop takes c5, Timon resigns the game, as there is nothing left to be done here. You see, Karpov's got these extra 2 pawns, and still all of these pieces are uncoordinated. So yeah, Timon really saw no move here that could be played, and just decided to resign this game. And that was the end of it. And that, my friends, is how Karpov slowly drains all hope. One move at a time. Now, if you enjoyed the breakdown, drop a like, sub for more, and let me know in the comments which player today reminds you most of Karpov's style.